How y'all doing? Good morning. Thanks for coming. We got a really awesome meeting today. There's a lot of stuff happening, and so thanks for coming. And we're going to go ahead and just jump in. I'll read this one since it's kind of long. But has anybody ever read the book Think and Grow Rich? It's an old one.
Yes.
Old one, but a good one. This says, all who succeed in life get off to a bad start and pass through many heartbreaking struggles before they, quote, arrive. The turning point in the lives of those who succeed usually come at the moment of some crisis, through which they are introduced to their, quote, other selves. So if you've read the book, you'll know a little bit about what that means, but that's kind of an interesting angle that sometimes it takes a crisis to sort of shift us and make us aware of what is important, where our priorities are. So as bad as crises are, sometimes they can be life-changing events in a good way too. Kind of a funny little story about the word arrive. So my wife, she grew up in a college town in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and she drove, in high school, she drove this like 25-year-old diesel Mercedes that she called Putt-Putt. And she would get into the school parking lot, and probably 2 or 3 days a week it wouldn't turn off, and so she had to lift the hood and like disconnect the fuel line. So, you know, she was like, Mom and Dad, I'm really grateful for the cars, thank you, but like this is really kind of mortifying. I might just rather take a bus. But anyway, she took it to the shop when she was a senior in high school, and she said, it just doesn't have any like oomph. It just doesn't really go. And the mechanic said, oh honey, it's a Mercedes. You're not designed to be in a hurry. You've already arrived. So anyway. That was a good memory. But what are y'all grateful for today, other than slow cars and fast mechanics?
Finally made it home from a trip after 36 hours in an airport.
36 hours of traveling?
Yeah.
But you went fishing? You caught your first fish on a fly rod?
That's right.
Where'd you go? Jackson Hole? Mm-hmm. Nice. Real quick, I want to say gratitude to Teddy Pins. I don't know if he's here today, but a lot of y'all went to his class. I've heard nothing but just really, really good things. Every single day somebody comes up to me and says, man, that class was really incredible. So if you get a chance to attend one of his other classes, do it. What else? What else are y'all grateful for today? Kids are back in school? Virginia, what do you got?
Buyer coming to town this weekend.
Buyer coming to town this weekend?
Under contract this morning.
Under contract this morning. Wow, it's not even 9:30.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Good work. All right. Quick education update. We've got a class. Bobby is right now not here. She is packing for a trip. She's going on a river cruise from the Mediterranean up to Amsterdam, up the Rhine River. She's been planning this for a year. So I was lucky enough. My mother-in-law likes to travel, but she's single, and she about 10 years ago told my wife and I and her sister, I'll book the cruise if you can get yourself over to Europe. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So we did, and so I got to go on this cruise as well, and it was incredible. But she's coming back for 10:30 to teach a class on negotiating work-life balance. So please be sure to attend that. If you think you're too busy to attend, maybe that's a good reason you should attend. The Franklin sales meeting, we're going to be down there tomorrow. So Franklin folks, there's a few of y'all here as well right now, but we'll be back and have a sales meeting down there tomorrow. And then Chris Springsteen will be down there tomorrow. And then there's a renovation loans class in Franklin as well. Connie, are you teaching that? Or is Roger teaching that? Great. And then Thursday, VMIT training. So VMIT are where all your documentation goes in order for you to get what? Paid. So if you need a little refresher on that, 11 a.m. on Thursday, that'll be here. And then next week, there's a Realtrex class in Franklin, and then the East Office sales meeting is at 11. Tyler, I got you earlier than I thought.
Okay.
What do you have here? Outside the corner office. Please join the Massey Graduate School Alumni Board.
Yeah. Morning, everybody. So I sit on the Massey Graduate School Alumni Board, and we're doing an event next week, and Mark is actually going to be on our panel. So we're having all these, I don't know if you can see all these people. We've got Angie Adams, CEO of Pencil, and Jania Clark, she's CEO of the Girl Scouts in Middle Tennessee, Mark Deutschman, Chip Howarth, managing principal of S&H Group, and Nicole Tremblett, VP of Strategy at HCA. So we're going to be talking with them. We're going to have someone asking them questions. We're going to have a little bit of just discussion in the room. We do this every year. It's like a professional development event. So since Mark's going to be there, I thought I'd let you guys know. It's only $5. It's at Belmont. So it should be like a pretty fun, hopefully educational event.
All right. August 28th at 5 p.m. So book your calendars. Tyler, will you just reply all to that email I sent out this morning and attach this? That'd be great. All right, Ninja. We got another Ninja coming. Who's been through at least one Ninja installation? About half of you. That's awesome. This was a life-changing experience for me. I've probably gone through 5 of them. It's not the only exceptional training out there. Obviously, we got a tremendous amount of in-house training that is second to none. But I would encourage everybody to do this. It's really cool too because you get 32 hours of CE, which is pretty phenomenal. And it's hard to get 32 hours of CE in a boring class for the cost, which is $750. But it is truly an investment. That doesn't include obviously your code of ethics and Trek core course, but you can do those separately from that online. But if you go to ninjaregistration.com/registration, just go to ninjaregistration.com, it'll take you there. If you're curious about what Ninja is, there's a little breakfast at 5 Senses in Murfreesboro, actually, because that's where the class is going to be at at Middle Tennessee Association of Realtors. Friday, August 30th, and then there's going to be a lunch at Steakhouse 5 on Wednesday, September 4th. So if you're curious for a little, just what it is, then it would be good. Is Brian here? Brian's not here yet. Brian was going to talk, but his daughter got sick. Brian and I took this class back in 2012, and I would wholeheartedly credit this for allowing us to have the approach that we took to be able to list and sell the 1212 high-rise building, which was a $157 million listing. So I don't know of any bigger testimonial than that, but I can almost guarantee you that we wouldn't have gotten that listing if we wouldn't have utilized the principles learned here in relationship building and just our approach. So hopefully that's helpful. Hunter, what you got? China?
We really need a new name, Zach.
I Googled words that start with the letter H. Bad thing to Google.
All right, we'll work on that. So I came across a book, and I've started. Do y'all start a lot of books? Like start more books than you finish? So I'll start a book, and I get the hang of, especially like business books. You can kind of read the intro and a couple of chapters, and you kind of I can either invest another 2 weeks into this thing, or I think I got like 80% of it. So that's where I am on this book, Range, which is written by David Epstein, and he has a TED Talk that's really good, Bill Gates approved, so check that out. But the book talks about, there's a whole rush in our culture to specialization, and you see Tiger Woods, and he's on the Tonight Show at age 3 playing golf, and that's what he does. And so Malcolm Gladwell, who is awesome, but he's kind of talks about the 10,000 hours rule, and you really become an expert at something, and you need to invest at least 10,000 hours into that. Talks about the Beatles and other people who have done that. But while plenty of experts argue that if you want to develop a skill, you need to start early, focus intensely, rack up as many hours as possible, and if you dabble or delay, you'll never catch up to the people who get a head start. The data actually shows that top performers from professional athletes, that specialization is the exception, not the rule. So for every Tiger Woods, you've got Roger Federer, who played multiple sports growing up before kind of honing in on tennis. And the data showing, that failing's the best way to learn. Frequent quitters wind up with the best careers. The most impactful inventors cross over domains. They don't just focus on one part of science. And then increasingly in our technology world of AI, and having range is even more important just because, you know, computers can kind of take over, you know, maybe one facet of a job, but if you can do multiple things, you're in a better position to thrive long term. So I just thought this would be good for us as real estate agents. It's really important to have some range, right? Because your role is buried in just one transaction. Think about it. You're like, what do? You're a data-focused person at some point, doing comps and looking at data. You're also, you know, part psychologist and admin specialist. So it takes a lot of different skills and roles as a realtor. So I thought this book is good for us to remember. And then in an effort to expand our range, it's always important to like know what's going on in the world. And so 50 years ago, last week, there was a festival. Who knows what it was? All right, Woodstock. So they expected to have, was anyone at Woodstock here? Young David Langgood? No? He wasn't there, all right? So they're expecting like 25,000 people. It was in right outside Woodstock in Bethel, New York, and they ended up with like 400,000 people. 32 different musical acts, and it was kind of the, you know, it exemplified kind of the hippie revolution during that time. But music festivals today are a big deal. Who knows the top 3 music festivals today?
Burning Man.
No.
Lollapalooza.
There's one in California. Coachella. That is, that's number 2. I think Fire Festival is not on there. Have you seen that documentary? There's like 2 of them. It's awesome. Okay, so you got Coachella. You've got what's the one in Grant Park? Lollapalooza. You said that right. And then the third one is Austin, Texas. South by Southwest, yeah. Which I was going over this with my kids this morning to see if they knew any of them, and one of them said South by Southwest. I was like, no, that's not it. It's SXS. So I learned something this morning. Okay, so other news. CBS and Viacom agreed to merge last week. So who's cut their cord? It has no cable. Like, that's unheard of like 5 years ago probably. And it's like half of you. So this is all kind of part of that, what's going on in the media world. So which of the following is not a Viacom property now that they've all merged? Any guesses? HGTV is not a Viacom. All the others are. You got Comedy Central is also one of those, but they own a lot of different stuff. So I think as you have all this cord cutting, these companies are getting bigger. You see Disney doing a lot, and Netflix and AT&T. So next question. All right, fill in the blank. Blank account for roughly 40 to 50% of the world's solid waste.
Kroger bags.
Those are bad.
Disposable diapers.
Disposable diapers, no. Think bigger. Water bottles, no.
Cars.
Construction materials. So, you know, don't tear down that house. Renovate it. Interesting. All right. Name the company. I am the world's largest oil producer, and I claim to generate 1 in every 8 barrels of the world's crude oil.
Shell.
The United States.
Close. Saudi Arabia's Aramco. So if you're ever wondering why we're so interested in the Middle East and like all that, 1 in 8 barrels of oil comes from just that one country. So anyway, good to keep in mind. So, around town and around the world, all right, Hong Kong. Anybody know what's going on in Hong Kong? Anybody know where Hong Kong is? So Hong Kong, this is China, mostly all China. That little guy right there is Hong Kong. So it's just like surrounded by China. But it was a semi-autonomous region for a long time, for like 156 years. It was part of the British Empire, and it was allowed to thrive and became like another London, New York financial hub of the world. And yeah, so it's just a huge city. And so a joint agreement in 1984 between the British government and the Chinese government said that, all right, we've got this situation. We own, or control this little bitty area surrounded by your country, and we're trying to, get along here. So they agreed to hand it back to China in 1984. They said in 1997 we're going to give you back Hong Kong, but for 50 years you are going to agree to give them a high level of autonomy, free press, capitalist markets, and English common law. Kind of have this one country, two systems form of governance. That was, it's an agreement only a bureaucrat could love, It's like, this is 84, we're looking ahead to 97, and then we're expecting for 50 years, so until 2047 that it's, and then I guess in 2047 it just becomes part of China, and we're hoping by then that it's more democratic there. But, so what's happened is China has slowly started, kind of exerting some of their power, and one of the things they did recently was basically they allowed for an extradition. So if you get accused of a crime in Hong Kong, they can just take you back to mainland China and take care of things there. And they don't have a great history, human rights-wise, with that sort of thing. So you've had weeks now, like the 11th week of protests over this extradition bill. Last week was one of the biggest protests, and so how bad could this get, and why are people worried about it? This is a blown up picture, but this is one of probably the top 5 iconic photographs ever, and this is in 1989, Tiananmen Square. This man down here holding 2 shopping bags. So there was protests going on. So they've been going on from like April of '89, and then now this is in June of '89. Basically, there had been a pro-interior, their secretary was pro-freedom, and he had passed away, and they replaced him with another hardliner. And so students kind of began protesting in Beijing, and so they have these massive protests, and the Chinese government gets frustrated and annoyed with this. They bring in tanks, machine guns, and they're breaking up all the protesters. And this guy ends up, it's on video too. He stands in front of the tank, and the tank swerves to go around him, and he moves over and gets in front of him again. And this guy has so much reach. He actually gets that tank to stop and climbs up on the tank and talks to someone inside. No one knows what he said or what happened. No one even knows who this guy's known as Tank Man now. He was amazingly courageous, but no one really even knows who he is. But it's kind of exemplified what was going on at the time. And then really, why it's called the Tiananmen Square Massacre is that they ended up opening up fire on their own people and killed thousands and injured thousands. So that's what Hong Kong's worried about. That's kind of why it's important. It's also like we've got the trade war going on right now, right? So, and I promise I'll hurry up. It's probably boring and all the tears, but it's kind of like good to know what's going on. You hear about it all the time in the news. And so, all right, trade war summary, real quick. You've got Trump campaigns on this America First platform. We're going to get better trade deals. And and we're going to impose tariffs in order to do it. So that's what he's done. He's gone and imposed tariffs on imported goods from China. So what that does, what most economists say that does, is that it just increases the cost for the consumer, and it depresses economic benefits, competition, and it really inhibits economic growth. So there's a Trump's view is more that we're going to take in all these tariffs. It's going to be billions of dollars. So we'll be richer than we've ever been. Only he can say that, we'll make our country richer than ever before. And economists are saying no. Really all the economists are saying because tariffs or taxes on imports, they cause higher prices and reduce trade or economic growth. Art Laffer, who's a conservative, won a presidential Medal of Freedom, he's kind of what he says about free trade and responding to tariffs that other countries put on you, he's like, don't respond. So if China's not being fair in their trade policies with us, if you respond, it's the same thing as China's punching us in the stomach, and to get back at them, we're gonna punch ourselves in the face. That's kind of what we're doing by responding to these trade wars. So the best thing economically is just to is not to impose these tariffs. There's a whole, that's actually what led to the Great Depression. One of the things that led to the Great Depression in 1929 is the Smoot-Hawley tariff, and so there's a lot of history around why trade wars are bad. But there is a thought that maybe Trump is just negotiating. Maybe he knows that tariffs are really bad long term, and he's just negotiating with China to get a better trade deal. He's not going to go full on and put us into a recession. So anyway, that's all I know about the trade war. Finally, all right, flyover country. Size matters in the sense that smaller housing markets are leading the pack when it comes to price increases. This just came out last week. The Wall Street Journal reported that only 10 out of 178 metropolitan areas experienced double-digit home price increases, and those 10 winners were all small to mid-sized cities. So bigger cities like Seattle, San Francisco, New York, kind of losing their mojo, because overall, if you look nationally, existing home sales are down 4%, even though interest rates are really low. And so the thinking is that has to do with these bigger markets kind of losing their way. And then finally, Nashville soars as a top city for young professionals. So if you're under 34, it's a great place to be. Nashville jumped from, I think, number 19 or 20 to number 3 last year. So it's about a 17-point drop. You can see all the other cities included. That's kind of an interesting one. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We're tied with Denver at number 3. So pretty good list. So in summary, range. It's good. Have some range. China's bad. Trade wars bad for everyone. Hopefully Trump knows this and is just negotiating. Small markets are outperforming larger markets. And Nashville soars to the top city for young professionals. So that's your update. And Woodstock is good.
All right. Thank you. So we've got some guests. Lindsay and Rosie with Oz Arts are here, and they are a Rogan and Village Fund recipient in the past, and they want to talk to you a little bit about what they do for a few minutes and give you an overview. And then we got some really cool speakers after that. So, you want to come on?
At Oz Arts, we root ourselves in a simple truth. Art has the power to change lives.
Oz founder John L. Osganer embodied this change during the later stage of his life, when art gifted him with renewed vigor and vitality.
And with joy and purpose, he launched a dream, a contemporary art center, a beacon in the heart of Nashville, Tennessee. Brave,
new art. At Oz, we present the most captivating.
The most groundbreaking works of our time.
Ours is a fresh oasis for seasoned professionals.
A blank canvas for emerging artists. A playground for our youth.
And a public square for those who seek creative inspiration. Oz exists as a haven for transformative experiences, with no two performances alike.
Every season, we proudly host artists from the leading edge of their discipline.
Be it dance,
Music,
visual art, theater,
or genre-defying work.
Oz Arts is not merely a place. We are also a promise to the greater Nashville community.
That arts access and arts education go hand in hand.
That the creative spirit of the city is a worthy investment.
Envision a world in which art leads us forward.
Step into the future with Oz.
Be brave with us.
My name is Rosie Forrest. I head up education and engagement over at Oz, and I'm here with Lindsay Donovan, who heads up development. And thank you so much for letting us into your room today to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. I've really been enjoying myself, and I'd like to come back to your next sales meeting. So that is Oz, and I'm curious in the room who has been out there before. I heard there was a holiday party, maybe. We do special events and we do rent out our warehouse space for those kinds of things, but we really are known as a world-class destination for contemporary arts, international, local, national performances, and that's who we are and what we do. But I'm here specifically to be talking about education and engagement because that is truly a tenet of who we are. We can't be just bringing in these world-class performances without thinking about how Oz connects back to the greater Nashville community and how we bring the greater Nashville community into Oz. That's why we're here. We're a nonprofit. We're very interested in thinking about the arts and culture of Music City, sometimes including music, but also going beyond music or hybrid genres as well. When it comes to education and arts education, we really start from a place of it being more than just an extracurricular activity. Thinking about it as something you do after school. You join a play rehearsal or you're in the band. Those things are great, but as far as who we are and where we see we can make a difference is thinking about how can we integrate with local public schools, charter schools, private schools to bring STEAM initiatives into the classroom. Thinking about curriculum as creative problem solving, as design thinking. How do we take local teaching artists and put them into a physics classroom and look at what is creative and artistic about the process of learning physics. We have a number of programs, including Oz School Days, where we offer arts round robin or round table for students on those Mondays when MMPS is closed. We operate out of Centennial Performing Arts Studios, and students ages 5 through 12 come and take a varied arts experience for the entire day. We just completed Family Day, that was on Saturday, where tickets were $5 for anyone who entered. Children 2 and under were free. We do that every year. It's our annual family festival with international performances, again, cultural dance groups and music ensembles, as well as a theme of art plus technology for all of the booths that were present around the grounds. With our 16 performances that we have coming up this season, I did leave some brochures on the end of the table there, as well as my card. Lindsay's will be there as well. And please do look to our website, which is ozartsnashville.org, for what we have coming up. Beginning in September, we have a Japanese artist named Umeda, who is a dance and kind of laser projectionist, and it works together to create a magical evening. But with those performances, we are always looking for ways to get out into the community and to engage with other organizations, other artists, other dance groups and museums, and thinking about how do we take what we're doing and what we believe in and then bring it into a master class, a panel discussion, finding ways to bring art groups together to create a new art form. And last but not least, we're also thinking about how do we work as Oz, as a contemporary art center, to launch new programs and new initiatives that otherwise wouldn't exist if we didn't kind of go out and say, all right, this seems to be a need, or this is an exciting idea. So the Porch Literary Collective, we have a writing component where we have 2 cohorts of teen writers and adult writers coming in. They see everything that Oz has to offer, and then they generate original writing about that experience. It can just be inspired by a color or a line, and that kind of ekphrastic response is something that we really celebrate. So, as far as education and engagement goes, we really believe at Oz that we want to be as central and integral to the greater Nashville community as we can. And we come and speak to businesses and potential sponsors about this is where those dollars go. We are always trying to better ourselves and better our offerings, and by doing that, we're thinking about how do we grow deep roots. And I think that it is through education and engagement that we're able to do that. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate
Appreciate it, Rosie. Thank you. So just a reminder, you all are in charge of the Village Fund. The last 22 years, we've put $2.2 million back in the community thanks to you. So great work on that. You can direct, if this is a passion of yours, or if you've been inspired today, you can talk to Susan Turner. You can email her at sturner@villagerealestate.com and ask her to direct your Village Fund giving to Oz Arts. So thank you all for coming. All right, how's the market? What are you seeing out there? You just said something this morning, Will.
We got the cheapest house in Sylvan Park is $395.
So cheapest house in Sylvan Park is $395. That used to be the most expensive house in Sylvan Park.
Yeah.
What else? What else y'all seeing?
Not,
Virginia?
I need some inventory.
You need some inventory? All right, what price range?
650 to 7.
650 to 7, okay. Got it. Well, rates have stayed steady. There's just where they were last week, which is 3.375 for both 30-year fixed and the 5-1 arm, and then the 15 is 3.375. These are also these slides if you want to post them on social media. If you go to vlearn.villagetn.com, you can log into the classroom section and download them here. What are rates?
375.
375. Good. You're paying attention. All right, I want to talk about something real fast. So this is a platform, and I'm going to show you another video that lasts about 5 minutes, but it's pretty powerful, and it's really been revolutionary to the way that I've handled a lot of goal setting. And I wanted to show it to you just as a way that to hopefully inspire you. But it's a slightly different way of looking at goal setting. It's based on a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution right here. Has anybody ever read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? So Franklin Covey likes to come out with books with numbers in them. So they also have the 5 habits of something or other. Seven habits of highly, the 5 something, and then the 4 disciplines. So anyway, the 4 disciplines, you're going to see a guy who's pretty excited, even more so than I am, talk about what they are. But just open your mind for a second as you watch this, and I think you'll be inspired in terms of how you think about your goal setting.
The 4 disciplines of execution are designed to create a winnable game. They give you the power to execute your most important goals in the face of competing priorities and distractions. The disciplines are powerful yet simple. They are not, however, simplistic. They can be tricky to apply and sustain because they require us to work differently than we normally do. Discipline 1 is focus on the wildly important. It requires you to focus on less in order to accomplish more. You start by selecting one wildly important goal, or WIG, instead of trying to work on a dozen goals all at once. We're not suggesting you ignore the work necessary to maintain your operation. We are suggesting you narrow your focus to work on what you want to significantly improve. Most intelligent, ambitious people don't want to do less, especially if it means saying no to good ideas. They're wired to do more, but there are always more good ideas than there is capacity to execute. When you choose a wildly important goal, you identify the most important objective that won't be achieved unless it gets special attention. In other words, your normal course of business won't make it happen. To define a WIG, identify where you are now, where you want to be, and by when. Said differently, you define a starting line, a finish line, and a deadline. Psychologically, it's very important to have a single measure of success. This is the discipline of focus, and it's the first step to creating a winnable game. Discipline 2 is act on the lead measures. No matter what you're trying to achieve, your success will be based on 2 kinds of measures, lag and lead. Lag measures track the success of your wildly important goal. Lags are measures you spend time losing sleep over, right? Revenue, profit, quality, customer satisfaction. They're called lags because by the time you see them, the performance that drove them has already passed. You can't do anything to fix them. They're history. In contrast, lead measures track the critical activities that drive or lead to the lag measure. They predict the success of the lag measure and are influenced directly by the team. A common example of a lag measure is weight loss. Which activities or lead measures will lead to weight loss, right? Diet and exercise. Proper diet and exercise predict the success of weight loss and their activities we can directly influence. Right? Now, simple enough, but be careful. Even the smartest people fall into the trap of fixating on a lag measure they can't directly influence. This is because lags are easier to measure and they represent the result we ultimately want. Think of a lead measure as a lever that moves your wildly important goal. Discipline 3 is keeping a compelling scoreboard. People play differently when they are keeping score. If you doubt this, watch a group of teenagers playing basketball. See how the game changes the minute scorekeeping begins. It's not a subtle change. The lag and lead measures won't have much meaning to the team unless they can see the progress in real time. Bowling through a curtain is not that much fun. Discipline 3 is the discipline of engagement. People perform best when they are emotionally engaged, and the highest level of engagement comes when people know the score, whether they are winning or losing the game. It's that simple. The best scoreboard is designed for and often by the players. A player's scoreboard is quite different from the complex scoreboard coaches love to make. If players know the score, if they can influence the lead measure, and if the lead measure moves the lag measures, you know you have a winnable game. Disciplines 1, 2, and 3 are nothing more than a formula for creating a winnable game. Discipline 4 is how we play that game. Discipline 4 is create a cadence of accountability. The cadence of accountability is a rhythm of regular and frequent team meetings that focus on the wildly important goal. These meetings happen weekly, sometimes daily. Ideally, they last no more than 20 minutes. In that brief time, team members hold each other accountable for commitments made to move the score. The secret to Discipline 4, in addition to the weekly cadence, are the commitments that team members create in the meeting. One by one, team members answer a simple question. What are the 1 or 2 most important things I can do this week that will have the biggest impact on the scoreboard? In the meeting, each team member reports first if they met last week's commitments, second, if the commitments moved the lead and lag measure on the scoreboard, and finally, which commitments they will make for the upcoming week. People are more likely to commit to their own ideas than to orders from above. And when individuals commit to their fellow team members, not only to the boss, the commitment goes beyond professional job performance to become a personal promise. When the team sees they are having a direct impact on the wildly important goal, they know they are winning. And nothing drives morale and engagement more than winning.
What were your takeaways on that? I know y'all are my winners. What were your takeaways on that? Real quick. Commitments, right? Just having weekly commitments. What about the idea of like having a goal, right? You can drive toward, I want to sell 10 houses this year. That's great, okay? You can focus on that and positively think on that all day long, but it's not really going to drive those results. But if you focus on the activities, what are the activities that drive those results? What would those be called? lead measures, right? So if you can count and track the lead measures, which are hard to track, right? It's really easy to look at real tracks and say, all right, I made 6 sales this year. August, I'm on my way to my goal. But whatever you did to get there, to get those 6 sales, is long gone. You've already done those things. So if you look at Ninja, right, we talked about this. Daily gratitude, showing up, 2 personal notes, focus on your hot list daily, focus on your warm list daily. What are those? Lead or lag? Those are lead measures, right? Because they do what?
Get you to your goal.
They drive the results. They drive the results. So these may not be exactly what you do. These are lead measures for Ninja, but you have your own lead measures. Again, he said, if you create your own, you're much more likely to achieve them. Some people, maybe stuck in the 1970s and might like cold calling. I don't think anybody actually does that anymore, but that's a lead measure, right? It's a terrible one, I think, but it works for some people, or used to work for some people. Most people don't like to do that. Some people like to go to events. Some people like to write notes. Some people like to host open houses. All of those things are lead measures, but you have to be able to track those. If you can track those consistently and create weekly commitments, ideally with a partner or a group of people, then you'll be able to do that. Is this interesting? Does this kind of jog your mind a little bit? Good stuff. All right, so real quick check-in. Anybody go to facebook.com/events/birthdays? Sweet. A lot of y'all. Good work. Set up at least one past client on a monthly alert. Who's done that so far? A few fewer hands, but still making progress. What about your charming new village photo and bio? A few people have done that? Good. So as soon as Caitlin is done processing those and editing them and getting them uploaded, she'll email them to you. Yeah. So just an update. So it actually doesn't look like this anymore. So a lot of those have been updated, but keep updating those bios and info. So real quick tips. Doug Tulameris, I've got him coming up. He's going to talk about some lead measures that he did that drove ultimately $2 million worth of business for him and a job for his wife. So not too bad. So will you come just talk about real quick what you did?
Hey everyone. So let me pull this up. I got a text from Zach. I lost it, but I remember it. So Zach sent me a text back about maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and it was very short. It was, "Hey Doug, you crossed my mind today. Hope you're having a good week. Zach." And I thought, wow. Actually, I was having something on my mind that week, so I reached back out to Zach and kind of said, "Hey, I've got this going on. Thanks for the text," so on and so forth. Well, a day or two later, it occurred to me, I'm like, that was a really simple text. It was non-committal. It was just kind of a tap, and I thought, wow, I know I need to be speaking to my database more frequently. I'm not the kind of guy who gets real comfortable picking up the phone and calling people I haven't talked to in, I don't know, a year or two since I've sold them a house because it feels a little awkward. So I thought, I'm going to commit to doing 5 texts a day to my database. I had a database of about 125, 150 people in there. So 5 a day, I'm just going to send that same text out. "Hey Joe, this is Doug, if I hadn't talked to him in a while. You crossed my mind today. Hope you're having a great week." That's it. So I did that, and it was super easy to do. Some of them it was kind of like, oh gosh, I haven't talked to this guy or this girl in a long time. I hope they remember who I am. So on a couple occasions I put, "Hey, this is Doug Tulameris, your favorite realtor, LOL. Yeah, you crossed my mind today. Hope you're having a good week." That's it, Doug. Well, coming out of that, I actually updated the numbers. I got one past client of mine reached out. They said, "Oh, Doug, great to hear from you. Just happened to be yesterday. We walked through an open house. We think we're growing out of our place. We're thinking about selling and buying." That ended up being a $925,000 listing and a $1.1 million buy. And then another couple who I'd actually done a pretty good job keeping up with the husband. We'll see each other once a quarter, keep in touch. But I sent it to his wife, who I'm not so good about keeping in touch with. Literally the next day, I get a text from somebody out in California that says, "Hey Doug, my name is, Sandy. Amy gave me your name and number. We're relocating to Nashville." She said to reach out to you. That ended up being a $1.4 million buyer. So,
I'll take that. 3.5 million.
Yeah, 3.5. And then lastly, another friend of ours reached out to him, and he said, hey, things are going really well. We're opening up a couple new businesses. We'd love to have you come out for the grand opening. And I thought, oh, great. I'll go down and chat with him. So we were just chatting, and he made some comment that he was looking for somebody to help him run one of the businesses down in Brentwood. And I just thought, I mentioned it to my wife. Long story short, she ended up talking to him, and now she's got a new gig running a business down in Brentwood. So again, just out of a quick little text that was very non-committal. And I got a lot of really good other positive feedback from people. Just, hey, great to hear from you. Hope you're well. Hope you're enjoying your summer. So anyway, it's pretty easy.
I'm so proud of you guys here. Doug, I'm going to give you this. You can read that if you haven't yet. But that is really, what a cool story. I want to hear more stories about this kind of stuff. I want to bring you all up and share, because it's not just me telling you, hey, here's what goes on. Y'all are the experts. You know what to do. Try that. Just try it. That's
you had some like weird interactions, like who is this? Did you have any negatives?
Did you get any who is this?
You know, I only got one, and it was somebody who, I only got one, and it was somebody who I had worked with a couple years ago, and we got along fine, but I wouldn't say we gelled, and he just said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have your number saved on my phone. Who is this? But thank you for thinking of me. And I responded back, and I said, this is who I am. And I didn't hear anything else back, but other than that, it was good, because at least I know he's still there, and yeah.
2 years later, he just said, Bueller. So. That's awesome. All right, one more visitor here, not visitor, but one of Village's own is Virginia Rogan, and she got a little bit of stuff to talk about, so I wanted to ask her a few questions. So Virginia, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Virginia has always inspired me ever since we got back here. She is one of the most steady, consistent people that I know, and I see her just consistently just chipping away every single day, and she shows up consistently all the time. So I asked her to just see if I could quiz her on a few questions. So all right, here goes. So first one, what are 2 or 3 activities that you think make you successful when you do them consistently?
I would say 2 to 3 is probably education, engaging with my sphere, and we all know to show up. And I do appreciate showing up here every day. I like seeing the agents here, engaging collaboration with other agents. As far as education, when I first came to work here, and I've been here almost 5 years, I wanted to know everything, and we're never going to know everything. But I do, whenever I have, just reviewing my weekly schedule, if I've got a hole, what am I going to learn? Am I going to go to a class? Am I pursuing a designation? So education is important to me, and I still have lots to learn. And then engaging with my sphere. When I first moved here, I didn't know anybody. Started a business where you really need to know people. And so my sphere was in another city, but gradually I have built a sphere here. It's through, through my neighborhood, through church, through organizations where I volunteer, and just being consistent with that engagement, I would say. And then showing up and kind of doing those things that I know I'm supposed to do every day.
That's great. So what do you think is what is your morning routine? And one of the things, if you look at her desk, she has and you may talk about this, but I was fascinated the other day. I saw she has a time block schedule taped to her desk. So it's like right there whenever it's on where she puts her computer, so she has to look at that. But do you have so I think you're fairly routine oriented, but do you have a morning routine that you like that works?
I do have a routine, and I will say I don't necessarily do it every day, but that thing is taped to my desk so that I can remember, what am I supposed to be doing today? I get up about 6:30 every morning. Some mornings I exercise, but usually I'm an evening exerciser. I do have, kind of a quiet time or reading time. I did Ninja, and I do think Ninja is a really practical way to do the things that we all know we're supposed to be doing. So I like the gratitudes, I like doing the readings, writing notes to people, and that could be, reviewing birthdays and sending out a birthday card. That can be your note. So I do kind of have a daily routine, and when I first started, I can tell you just broadly what I do every week. Monday is kind of my admin catch-up day. on paperwork and looking at my week ahead. What am I going to do this week? Tuesday is meeting day. Wednesday is a day where I go and preview properties. You know, I love it when I have a client and I can say, oh yeah, I've been to this neighborhood, I've been to that house. So just knowing Nashville, and I think I would do that anyway, even if I wasn't in real estate. So I like previewing new neighborhoods. And then Thursday, broker open. We all need to know other agents. And then Friday is kind of a catch-up day, and I fill in all of those empty spaces with, looking at my hot list, warm list, reviewing my database, where am I, do I need birthdays put in, just kind of looking at lists of people that I've come in contact with, and how can I follow up with them? Is there a way for me to get some business out of them? What else do I do? Anyway, that's kind of the week at a glance, but it's helpful. I guess one of the most helpful things I do is at the end of the day, on a perfect day, I'll say, what am I going to do tomorrow? So that when I walk in the morning, I know what I'm going to do. And another thing is, if I have 3 or 5 things that I have to do today, I can't leave until I do them. Or I can't go to lunch until I've done, these 2 things. So just setting little mini goals like that.
Little sprints, I love it. All right, so if you have a recent client success story that relates, I think I meant to say relates to your habits, anything that maybe, sort of like what Doug did. Doug started doing some things consistently and it turned into now $3.5 million worth of business. Is there anything like that you could attribute to just consistent habits?
This isn't something terribly new, although I love Doug's idea, and I'm going to start texting people. Bobby Noreen said when I first started, touch people every 30 days. Send out your newsletter. And I have, for the most part, I have done that. And I'm so glad that Village is now doing a newsletter for us, because we can all send out that newsletter. But I met a couple, like, when I first started. And they are coming this weekend. This is the couple that I'm looking for a house for. And they want to buy a $650,000, $700,000 home. And it's because I kept in touch with them with my 30-day message, and we've just kept in touch over the past 4 years. So it does pay to be consistent in the activities that can get old sometimes, I would say.
So last one, if a village agent kid came to you and said that they were stuck and needed to get out of a rut, what question, not what answer would you give them, but what question do you think you'd ask them to help them find their place?
I might have had to ask myself that last year. But what are you doing? What are you doing every day? How are you spending your time? Are you, coming into the office? Are you engaging with other agents? What kind of things are you doing that really put you in front of people and allow you the opportunity to tell people what you do? How are you filling your time? I think, show me your calendar. I think would probably be the first thing. And there's a long list of things to do. There are too many things to do in a day. It's kind of like the wig, like focused on some wildly important goal. But there are too many things for us to do. And so there's never a moment to be down. So the calendar should be full, and hopefully full of money-making opportunities.
Thank you very much, Virginia. Give her a hand. All right. Good work. Good success story there. All right, Gary. So real quick progress update. One of the things I want to show is have everybody do Village. I just noticed on Google only has 8 reviews. Ooh. They're 4.9 stars, which is good. But if everybody can take out their phone, turn on their camera, and just aim it at this. You turn your camera and aim it at that. Otherwise, you can type in this little URL down at the bottom. But it should, especially if you have an iPhone. I don't know about an Android, but if you don't have to take a picture, just aim it at it, and then if it captures it, it will have a little link at the very top, and that should take you to a place where you can leave a glowing 5-star review. So, what makes a good review? What makes a review good? Specificity. What else?
Achieving word awesome. You guys are awesome.
The word awesome or amazing? Probably not. Great? No. Good words. Results-oriented things, right? What it feels like, what a place feels like. Sometimes that's hard to put into words. So take a second to do that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to pull up our coming soons. And I can get those ready. Any broker opens to talk about?